Hello, I'm Matt Lloyd, and I'm here to introduce the one and only Bill Coffey to the Jeffco Hall of Fame. Now, Bill, he taught and coached in Jeffco for 50 years. That's right, you heard me right, 50 years. He coached in Jeffco Public Schools for 50 years, and as amazing as that sounds, not only one sport, but two sports. For 50 years, he coached football and track. Unbelievable to think about. During those 50 years, he was an assistant coach in both sports. He was a head coach in both sports. Over those 50 years, he had multiple league championships in both sports and a state championship in each sport. How do I, as important as the winning is and everything else to coaches, Bill's focus was on the kids, and it was about the kids. Sure, winning is great, everybody wants to win, but it's the kids first. How do I know that? Because I was a player for Bill in the 80s at Bear Creek High School. He was an assistant coach. Then I was lucky enough to coach with Bill for 16 years in Jeffco also. And furthermore, he also coached my two sons in both sports. And in my household, Bill Coffey's up here, Coach Lloyd's down here. Only because of this. My sons both ran hurdles in track, and Coach Coffey could coach any one of the track events, but hurdles was his specialty, and hurdles is not easy to do. And both my kids loved every single minute that they got with Coach Coffey. Coach Coffey also could coach any position in football, but his specialty was the offensive line. Again, one of the harder things to coach. We believe, my sons and I, many other kids that he's impacted believe, there's no better offensive line coach and no better track coach, specifically hurdles, than Bill Coffey. He has impacted so many kids over the years. I think it's thousands of kids. And again, the importance is about the kids. My sons love him, and the thousands of kids that he has coached also love him, because they knew, regardless of whether they were the best kid or the kid that was just learning the sport, Coach Coffey was going to give them everything he had. He was going to make them better, and he cared about them. He loved the kids. He did that for 50 years. That's the impact that he had. That's unbelievable to think. Those thousands of kids were why Coach Coffey did it for 50 years. I remember about 3 years before he was going to retire, he told me, he said, Matt, for about over 45 years at that time, he goes, I have not spent a single weekend with my family for over 45 years in the fall or in the spring. Now that's unbelievable to think about, especially coming from a person who does coaching also. But it was really, it made me think that, man, the sacrifices that coaches' families make also, and Bill's family has made that sacrifice. They made those things for 50 years. But I want Bill to know and his family to know it was worth it. I knew that Bill wouldn't coach forever. You hope a guy like Bill does, but he impacted me. Not only as a player, as a coach, he impacted my family, my kids. And that's why he did it for 50 years. And families know that that's important. If somebody's going to do it for that long, to make the sacrifices and not spend time with their family, that's what they're doing for kids. That's how they're impacting them. That's important in today's society. I would take Bill back in a heartbeat, all right? And I remember the time when I told my sons, hey, Bill's going to be retiring. My sons and I all had tears in our eyes, because we knew the impact that we were going to lose from a Coach Bill Coffey. Not only for us, but for the many kids in the future. Bill, you made a difference, not only for me, my family, my sons, and the thousands of kids that you coached. It is amazing to think that somebody could do two sports for 50 years. Thank you so much for your support as a coach, as a colleague, as a friend, and the impact that you made for 50 years will never be forgotten for all those kids. It is with great respect, honor, admiration, and love that I introduced Bill Coffey to the Jeffco Hall of Fame. Thank you.
It's a pleasure for me to introduce Tim Walker for induction into the Jeffco Athletic Hall of Fame. Tim is accompanied today by his wife Heidi, daughter Emma, his parents Tim and Betty, his brother Eric, and niece Anna. Tim's a product of the Jefferson County Schools, having graduated from Alameda High School in 1978. While at Alameda, Tim participated in football, basketball, and track, and was also a member of the National Honor Society and a member of Student Council. Tim continued his educational career at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, getting his bachelor's degree in 1982. It is also where he met his wife Heidi, and they'll be celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. Maybe we should induct Heidi into the Jeffco Athletic Hall of Fame. Tim also received his master's degree from the University of Northern Colorado in 1990. Tim started in Jeffco schools as a long-term sub, and his first full-time contract was at Jefferson High School, where Tim coached and taught for 4 years. After his time at Jefferson, he went to Stanley Lake. At Stanley Lake, Tim was there for a total of 13 years. A couple of years as a teacher, a couple of years as a dean, and 8 years as the assistant principal athletic director. In 2008, Tim came to Lakewood High School as the assistant principal athletic director, and Tim was there until 2017 and retiring in that year of 2017. Tim was involved with the Colorado Athletic Directors Association for 25 years. He was on the board for 17, and he was president for 2 years. In 2011, Tim was honored by the Colorado Athletic Directors Association as Athletic Director of the Year. Tim was also a member of the NIAAA, National Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, for 17 years. He got his national certification and then taught classes so other people could receive their national certification for athletic administration. He was also on the certification committee for 4 years. Tim and his family are big supporters of the National MS Society. They do the MS Ride every year, and their team is known as Team Sugar Bee. They do this in honor of their sister, Kelly, who had MS. Tim told me that his sister Kelly was his inspiration. Her bravery, her courage, and her positive attitude was an inspiration for him and provided him with a positive attitude that he always displays and others always noted. Over the years, I have witnessed Tim caring for his staff, students, and community. His positive influence and attitude was infectious. As Tim says, do the best you can. If there were a Good Guy Award in Jeffco, Tim would be its first recipient, and it would be well deserved. But today, we are welcoming Tim to the Jeffco Athletic Hall of Fame, a well-deserved honor to one of the good guys. Congratulations, Tim. You earned it.
Well, thank you very much, Jen Lazzeri, for picking me to introduce you into the Jeffco Sports Hall of Fame. I am super excited. For those of you who don't know Jen, she is Jefferson County through and through, as she was went to Divinity Elementary School here in Lakewood, and then Dunston Middle School, and then on to Green Mountain High School. and all 5 of her kids will either have graduated from a Jefferson County public school or will graduate from a public school here in Jefferson County as well. So this is a tremendous honor for her as well. So I'm honored to do this for you, a great friend of mine. Jen, if you guys, back in her high school days, she was a 3-sport athlete. She was a softball player, a basketball player, and a tennis player. And other than her injury her senior year, if she was able to play tennis, she would have been a 12-year letterman. She lettered in all 3 sports from her freshman year on. She was pretty amazing, and basketball, I think, is a big reason why we are here today, because she was an amazing basketball player. Jen and I actually got to know each other her freshman year in high school, which is she was a starter for the basketball team as a freshman and became a 4-year starter, and then on her way to 2-time all-conference her junior and senior year, as well as the 5A basketball player of the year. She was also the valedictorian of our high school. I was not even close to that at all. And then she had a tremendous career as she went on to the University of Wyoming and played basketball at the University of Wyoming. After college, she stayed in Jefferson County, where she became a teacher at Divinity Elementary, and then she also jumped right into coaching and became the head coach here at Green Mountain in 2000. I think she was here for 4 or 5 years. Then decided to be a mom and have kids, and took some time off. Knowing Jen for as long as I've had, and just knowing the heart that she has, we had an opportunity when I was at Chatfield to hire someone, and Jen was somebody that I thought about. She did not have a PE certification, so we had talked, because I knew if we can get her over at Chatfield, she would just make tremendous strides with what she would do there. And so we ended up hiring her probably about, I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago, and she became a PE teacher, and then took over as the head softball coach, where she did some amazing things as the head softball coach, getting some league championships and also getting to the Final Four. She was amazing. I do want to talk more about really why I'm excited to talk about Jen. Jen is just one of the most amazing humans on this earth. If there is a Hall of Fame for good people, she would already be in it. She's been a lifelong friend. For those of you who didn't know this, Jen and I went to homecoming together our freshman and sophomore year, went to prom together our junior year. She's one of those people that I've always wanted to stay connected with because of the heart that she has. She freaks out about stuff all the time. That's just the way she is. But there's many times when I've had to talk to her about things that I'm dealing with in my either personal life or in my coaching career, and vice versa. And she's just been such an amazing friend. I've known the family for a long time, and grown up with your brother Matt and your little brother Mike. I've known for quite a bit. I think our brothers graduated together. I know all your family is super proud of you. I am extremely proud. This is an amazing honor that you have earned, not just through your time here at Green Mountain High School, but I think beyond here, and what you've done and what you will continue to do here in Jefferson County. I would like to introduce you guys to the newest member of the Jeffco Sports Hall of Fame, Jen Lazzeri.
Hello friends and fellow colleagues, this is Jim Ellis, and I have the good fortune and frankly the privilege of introducing Jim Hynes to you. But before I do that, I want to thank and congratulate Patrick Simpson and Don Roberts for continuing this long-standing tradition of the Hall of Fame and the banquet that you're there today for. I also want to make a special shout out to one of the other inductees. I know they're all worthy. Bill Coffey I had a chance to work with for many, many years, both at Chatfield and here at Ralston Valley, and I know we'll be hearing more about him. And then also Jen Lazzeri I had the good fortune of working with last year at Chatfield. They're both outstanding candidates, and once again, the committee should be congratulated for doing a great job of selecting people for the Hall of Fame. It's small wonder that it's so prestigious. So I'd like to share just a little bit with you about Jim Hynes. First, I'd just like to share a little bit about Jim Hynes, the man. A lot of times in athletics and with any kinds of awards, longevity is a piece of this, and certainly that's part of Jim Hynes' story. I mean, he was born in Dwight Eisenhower's first term. John Wooden was still an undiscovered young coach at UCLA. Elvis Presley did his first performance on national TV the year Jim was born. And then not long after that, in 1961, he started his Jeffco experience at Lazzeri Elementary School and went on to Alameda Junior High School, and then Alameda High School, where he graduated in 1974, and then off to be a UNC Bear. Jim is a person of the highest integrity. He has an amazing work ethic, and he's got a wonderful sense of humor. In fact, to give you an example of that, I still play golf with Jim quite a bit throughout the years. And every year, every round that we play, and those of you who play golf with him will know this story, he always declares that there will be a mystery hole. And interestingly enough, when we finish the round and we're at the 19th hole having a few adult beverages, Jim announces which hole was the mystery hole. And for whatever the reason, it is always the hole in which he had the lowest score. So we all dig out our wallets and slide over $1 to him because he invariably wins that mystery hole. So sense of fair play as an athletic director doesn't necessarily translate to golf, at least for Jim. But another part of Jim's story is Jim the father. Right here at Ralston Valley High School, his 3 kids attended back in the early part of the century. And they excelled in athletics, and be it tennis, or soccer or basketball, and also in the theater on stage. And they're just unbelievably intelligent people, and they're kind and caring for others, just like Jim is. So much of his story is also about Jim the father, and he should be very proud of that as well. So after college, Jim moved on to education, also in Jefferson County, as a teacher, first at Ken Carl and junior high, and where he also coached 9th grade girls and boys basketball. And then in 1984, he moved on to Arvada West High School, in both cases teaching English language arts, and at Arvada West sponsoring student government. Then Jim started coaching his high school coaching career at Arvada West. That first year, he was a sophomore girls basketball coach at Arvada West in 1984. And then he also, in 1985, started as the varsity girls softball coach, and also was the varsity girls basketball coach. And of note, and I think an important piece of information, the team he took over at Arvada West girls basketball was 0-18 the previous year. And as a fellow high school girls basketball coach back in that era, I know that playing Jim Hynes coached basketball teams was a challenge every single time, regardless of the talent level he had. They were extremely, extremely well coached. Now, as time went on, Jim was able to bring an incredible amount of success to the Arvada West girls basketball program. They were Jeffco League champs in 91, 92, and 95. He was a coach of the year at 89, 91, and 92. He went to the Final Four in Chassa for 91 and 96. The 96 team played in the state championship game, were the state runner-ups, and he was named the Colorado Denver Post Girls Basketball Coach of the Year. And he had a remarkable amount of success and a great run all the way through 1998 when he made the transition to being a Dean of Students at Arvada West High School. So now I'd like to share with you a little bit about Jim Hynes, the athletic director, which I suspect is probably one of the biggest reasons why he was selected for the Hall of Fame. I'm standing in front of the Jim Hynes Gymnasium, which I had named after him because I felt so strongly about the work he did here as athletic director. It's important to remember that in 2000 or 1998, none of this was here. This was just grassland out here. There were no uniforms, there wasn't a school mascot or school colors, there were no bats or balls. Jim's literally built the athletic program here at Ralston Valley from scratch, with no prior traditions to rely on, or in some cases to overcome. And he just did such an incredible job. I think we all know about the Steinmark Award, so I won't go into any detail about that, except to say this, and I think this is important to digest. Jim was the athletic director, with the exception of 2 years, was the athletic director at Ralston Valley from 2000 to 2021. In that 20-year period of time, Ralston Valley won the Steinmark Award every year but 2 years. The first time they didn't win it was the year 2000 when the school opened and they didn't have seniors. And then in 2009, when Ralston Valley transitioned from 4A to 5A, we missed winning the Steinmark Award, I think by a half a point or a tenth of a point, something like that. You know, in a world of athletics, we all know about longevity and success. We remember the Boston Celtics in the 60s, or the UCLA Bruins in the 60s, or Low Hunter's incredible run at Evergreen back in the 70s. Those kinds of runs only come along ever so often. You know, in athletics, there's a conversation that comes up a lot about who's the GOAT. Is it Tom Brady or Russell Wilson, or is it LeBron James or Michael Jordan? I'm going to go out on a limb because I know this is an incredibly prestigious group of people in the audience here today, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think the case could be made that Jim Hynes is the GOAT for Jeffco Athletic Directors. A 21-year run like that, with winning the Steinmark Award 19 times in those 21 years, is a remarkable feat, and one that I would suspect is likely to ever be repeated again. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I think Jim is deservingly called the GOAT, or the greatest of all time, in Jeffco Athletic Directors. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Jim Hynes for induction into the Jeffco Athletic Hall of Fame.
My name is Brian Franca, and I get the honor of introducing my father, Lawrence Franca, for his induction into the Jeffco Sports Hall of Fame. Larry has been an amazing athletic trainer, educator, and parent in Jeffco since 1984. Prior to coming to Jeffco, Larry got into athletic training his senior year of high school after he was told to stop playing football because of too many concussions. He still wanted to be part of the team and found his way into athletic training. He then went on to Regis College, where he became an assistant trainer, and then eventually would become the head trainer. And along the way, he had the opportunity to work with many teams, an assistant for ABA Denver Rockets and the Denver Broncos. With athletic cutbacks to Regis College, he went on to work for other teams, such as the Denver Kickers and the Denver Dynamos and the Colorado Caribous. After that, he put his teaching certificate to use. He taught science and physical education and came to Jeffco in 1984. Larry taught science at Moore Middle School, which fed into Pomona High School, and he became the first school and district athletic trainer hired to cover all sports. My sister and brother and I got to grow up in Jeffco with him as our teacher and as our own personal athletic trainer. During this time, he also worked with a few other teams, the Denver Avalanche indoor soccer team, Colorado Comets, and the first Arena Bowl champions, the Denver Dynamites. Again, for those of you in Colorado, these are some old school Colorado sports. He did leave Jeffco for a slight period in 1988, where he became the assistant trainer for the Denver Nuggets and then became the head trainer. Though he loved professional sports, he loved his family and teaching more, and decided to come back and return back to Jeffco. He then became the athletic trainer at Stanley Lake, and then he was recruited over to work to be a teacher and the athletic trainer at the new Dakota Ridge. During that time, he taught science and PE, and of course was the athletic trainer. He literally wrote the curriculum for student trainers for the state and for Jefferson County, as well as creating 3 athletic training courses. He received numerous Teacher of the Year awards, as well as citations from the school board and the district board of principals for saving the life of a teacher in his school, as well as performing life-saving measures on a student. He was given the first Athletic Trainer of the Year award for Jefferson County, and upon his retirement, Dakota Ridge honored him by naming their new gymnasium after him, the Franca Fieldhouse. He continued to be an on-call trainer for the district until he was pulled out of retirement to be a trainer once again at Pomona High School, where his career all started, and continued to do that for 5 more years before he decided to retire from athletic training. Larry Franca has changed and influenced so many students, athletes, programs, and schools in Jeffco, and has literally saved lives. I even remember my first year teaching at Ralston Valley and coaching, I had a random dad come up to me and said, "Are you Larry Franca's son?" Which I proudly said, "Yes." And he said, "Your dad saved my life. He pulled me out of a football game when I got knocked so hard and should never have gone back on that field, and I was ready to run on, and he grabbed me and pulled me out and said, 'You're done.'" And he credits my dad for saving him. He wrote the book on athletic training for Jeffco, and it is my honor to introduce my father, Lawrence Franca, for his introduction into the Jeffco Sports Hall of Fame.